Hi, today we're going to take a look at Storyline 360. If you have a desktop icon for it, that's the quickest way to get into it. If not, you can always select the Articulate 360 app icon and then you can open Storyline from there. Now, once your Storyline opens, you will be looking at the Start screen, and from here you can start a new project in order to create a blank project. And from here, I want to show you a few areas to note. Up at the very top, you have a menu bar. And this is going to look similar to all of your Windows-based applications. You're going to have different menu options available, and directly underneath that is a menu ribbon. And that is where all of the options are going to be displayed for that particular menu item. So for instance, if I select on the Insert tab, you can see that I have different options available to me. Now under that is a view panel, and this view panel is going to change depending on what is going on, what you're doing in Storyline. The options that will be available to you in this lower section are going to change. But at the very bottom is a footer bar, and that is not ever going to change. That's going to be available to you no matter what you're looking at. Now, some of the different views have different options available, and I want to show you those now. In Story View, you're going to be able to see your scenes and your slides, and those will show in the center portion. And then you also have a Triggers panel and a Slide Properties panel. When you are looking at the Slide View, you're going to see some different options. And to see the Slide View, there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can go up to the View tab at the top, and then you can select Slide View. Or you can also go down to the very bottom, and there is a Story View button, and then there is a Slide View button. So you can go back and forth there. You also can simply select the tab up here at the top of the View panel itself to go back and forth. Now in the Slide View, we're going to see a few different panels pop up. We obviously have the slide itself, which we can see in the center. But to the left, we have a Scenes panel, which is going to show us the scene that we're looking at. And then we're going to see the slides within that scene underneath. And the one we are selected on currently, or viewing currently, is going to be highlighted with a blue border going around it, like you can see in this example right here. At the bottom, beneath the slide, there are three panels that are stacked on top of each other, the Timeline, States, and Notes panels. And then over to the right, you're going to see a Triggers panel, just like with the Story View, and then you're also now going to see a Slide Layers panel. Now that's similar, but a little different. So in Story View, that is a Slide Properties panel, and in Slide View, it's a Slide Layers panel, and those do two different things. There are a few other views available as well. So if I go up to the View button, I can get to the Slide Master and the Feedback Master views. That's how you change the slides themselves, the global types of elements that are on the slides. So when you're in Slide Master or the Feedback Master, you're going to see on the left-hand side your master slides listed, and you can change between them by simply selecting on them. But then all of the rest of the elements on the page, they're all going to be the same as Slide View. You still see that Timeline, States, and Notes panel at the bottom, and then you still see the Triggers and the Slide Layers panels over to the right. And now I'm going to show you one other type of Slide View that is going to look a little different. And in order to do that, I'm going to have a question slide. So I'm just going to go ahead and make one really quickly here for an example, just so we can take a look at it. So whenever you have a question slide, then there are two different ways to look at that slide. We can look at it in the traditional slide view, or we can look at it in form view. Now by default, when it's created, you can see it defaults to show us the form view. So when we're looking at form view, we no longer have the Timeline, States, and Notes panel down in the bottom, and we no longer have the Triggers and the Slide Layers panel over on the right-hand side. But if we want to see those things again, we can switch over to the slide view, And then now we get to see all of those things again, just like before, and we get to see what the slide actually looks like with the question on it. So when we're entering the information for the question, we can be in the form view, and there we can enter the question, the answers, the correct answer. We can provide the feedback, assign the points, those types of items. But when we want to design the slide itself that's holding that question, then we go into the slide view, and that's where we can edit any of those graphical elements on the actual slide itself. So those are all the different views. Now, the last thing I want to show you is when you're working in Storyline, you frequently are going to want to expand some things, change the size of some things, maybe move some things completely off of the screen. They just get in the way when you're doing certain tasks. So the quickest and easiest way, if like this scene is just really cluttering up my page and I don't want it here, I can just simply take that, grab it by the title, and then move it. I can move it over here. I could even move it completely off the screen, completely onto another monitor, for instance. I can do that with any of these. I can also do the exact same thing by hitting this docking button, and that basically will either undock or redock a panel. And so I can do that with all of those three there. And then I can also do that with this one here, and this one, and this one. So now every single one of those is now undocked, and I can move them around. I also can resize them. So maybe I want to make this one really small, and I want to stick it right here. And maybe I want to make this one really wide, and then maybe I want to stick it down here. And so you can see I can change where these things are. I can change the size of them. I can move them completely off, and I can also resize them into something and stack them on top of each other, etc. Now, after you've been moving things around a lot and you're changing what you're doing, you're going from one task to another, you may realize, I'd really like for all these just to return back to the way they were. Well, there's an easy way to do that. When you go up here to View, there is a Redock All Windows. And when you do that, it's going to send everything back to where it started from. There are also these little arrows that will let you instantly kind of drop them down and make them small, but they're still there in the same spot, so you can pop them back up real quick. Now, one thing that you may be noticing right here is this slide, it has a lot of empty space around it. And maybe when I'm working on it, I want to be able to see it really close up, or I want to be able to zoom in on it. Well, there's a couple of different ways to achieve that. First off, in View, there is this Zoom button. And so obviously that's going to let you zoom in. You can pick from a preset, or you can also just enter in your own. So I'm going to just pick a preset and show you. So now I'm able to zoom in, and that's great. But maybe I want to zoom in with a little bit more granularity than that, and I want to be able to kind of just, I don't know the specific number, and I just want to play with it. So down here in the footer bar, there's this slider that lets me, pick the size I want to zoom in myself using that. I can also, from down here in the footer bar, I can select this zoom percentage, and that will open back up that zoom window so that I can then pick the actual percentage that I want to zoom it to. Now, this is great, except I'll show you one thing where it isn't so great. Let's say I'm working on this slide, but now let's say I'm working in my timeline and I have a long list of items and I want to see them all. So I expand this all up so I can work on it. But now you can see I've covered my slide. Well, one thing I like to do, instead of using the zoom as much, is I like to fit that slide to the window. And what that does is as I move things around and resize things, my slide always takes up the most space it can in that available space. So if I go up here to View, Fit to Window, now you can see as I change the size of this, my slide gets larger and takes up as much space as it can. And by the way, and just in case you're interested, that same Fit to Window button is available down here in the footer bar in the far right side. So what that allows me to do is now when I take this and make it super small, now that gets really big as it can in that space. It's nice when you're working on things that you don't have to take the extra time to go in and fix the zoom every time you move something around. So I hope this has given you some information about how you can move the elements around and make them work for you. And I hope you take some time to kind of play with it and see what works best for you. I hope this was helpful for you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.